Friday. Welcome to a Friday fish fry on a Thursday. My wife might be going into labor tomorrow, so I decided to do it today. But tonight I have a special guest, which I'm excited to talk to. I've read one of his books, which is Witchy Eye. It's book one of the Witchy War series. And he is the senior editor at the new publisher, Ark Press. His name is DJ Butler. How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. So are we live?
We are live.
We are live. Somehow I thought we started 5 minutes from now. I thought I was dialing in early. Bam, suddenly here we are.
I just realized I don't have my audio set up right. Let me switch this real quick. There we go. That should work better. I saw you hopped in, so I just figured to jump in there.
Cool. Awesome. I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Anytime I get a chance to talk to an author that I like to read, I get super excited.
Very cool.
Yeah, actually, the first time I heard about you or learned about you, you were on the Writer's Dojo podcast, and then I was just walking around a used bookstore, and I saw Witchy Eye, and I saw the name, and I was like, oh, that name sounds familiar, and then I remembered where I heard it, and then man, what a surprise that book was awesome. I just ordered the rest of the series, so I got to read it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's different. It's not totally alien. There are some things like it. It's a little like Orson Scott Card's Seventh Son, except that's ultimately kind of small fantasy, and Witchy Eye is pretty big fantasy.
Yeah.
But there are probably other things in the space. Yeah, but it's trying not to be your standard epic fantasy while at the same time totally being an epic fantasy.
Yeah, I know. I think I don't know if this is an actual genre, but I can't remember the gentleman's name on X, but he was like, "What's your recommendations for good American fantasy?" I was like, the Witchy War series. Check it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What should we talk about? Tell me.
Yeah, I saw on the interwebs on X there that you are a part. I don't know exactly. I guess your position is senior editor.
Yep.
At Ark Press. And
yes, I'm one of 3 editors. So there's an editor in chief and 2 senior editors. So a senior editor is exactly the same as a junior editor. It turns out it's just
okay. Yeah. It's just got a little more shine on it.
It sounds better, but yeah, I'm not the editor in chief.
Okay. Yeah. It's like being an E5. You got a little bit more power, but the pay is not much different.
That's right. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, I looked on Twitter. I saw some things on there. I know you did like a Spaces on X, but I didn't catch it. So I'm glad you came on here because I'm definitely very interested to learn more about this new press.
Yeah.
So I guess what can you tell me about Ark?
Happy to talk to you about it. We did 2 Spaces, by the way. The second time I failed to record it, but the first time was just me. We're gonna do it again tomorrow. Me, David Afsharad. We'll see. Maybe we can get someone else on.
Awesome.
Ark is a new publisher. It's an interesting question. So the timing of this. So John Delaroz on his Fandom Pulse today published an article about Ark, which contains some misapprehensions.
Yeah.
So at the risk of looking like I have come here to correct John, I want to make comments about that, right? And I want to be sort of careful because I'm not going to say everything I know because it's not mine to comment on a lot of stuff that's just not public, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let me say at least 3 things. First of all, who is Ark? Ark is a new genre publisher. We have funding. We don't have books out yet. We're open for submissions. We're looking for books. We're talking to agents. We're also talking to writers. All 3 of us, Tony Daniel, David Afsharad, and I, have already been in the business for a long time, so we already have contacts. In fact, we've already had people who have given us manuscripts before this all started. So we're in the thick of that, while at the same time we are trying to get everything else up and running. Our website is still minimal. If you go there, basically all you have is a way to sign up for our mailing list, which, by the way, I invite everyone to do it. So this is a way to find out more as we develop. I spent some time today working with our excellent graphics guy to get bookmarks together to take to Superstars of Writing, which David and I will be at next week in Colorado Springs. And then also the week after, all three of us will be at Life, the Universe, and Everything, which is a writing symposium, a very large science fiction fantasy writing symposium in Provo, Utah, which is my hometown. It's very convenient for me that right. I think the largest symposium on writing sci-fi and fantasy is 2 miles from my house.
It seems like there's a lot of fiction stuff in Utah, like publishers and writers seem to hang out there.
There is, even if you take Brandon Sanderson out. This is a fact a lot of people have observed over the years. There's a lot of discussion about why it might be the case. In fact, I've got my next book coming out is actually a nonfiction book called The Politically Incorrect Guide to Science Fiction and Fantasy.
I think I saw that on your X.
Yeah, it comes out on April 1st, as it happens. And I have a sidebar about this question. Why are there so many Mormons is the real question who writing science fiction and fantasy? Because there are Brandon Sanderson, Orson Scott Card, but also Brandon Mull, Stephanie Meyer, right? There are a lot of household names. I don't have an answer. There are multiple answers. I don't know which one is right. They may all be right. So, but the point is we're kind of getting up and running. We will probably lean heavily into science fiction and fantasy, but we're looking for thrillers. We're looking potentially even for mysteries and westerns. We're interested in publishing books that male readers will want to read. That doesn't mean we want to publish book that female readers don't want to read. But it's our perception of the market that in recent years, traditional publishing has really chased the largest segment of readers, which is middle-aged women. Great. I love middle-aged women. That is, middle-aged women are wonderful. But like, not all books need to appeal to middle-aged women, right?
Yeah.
Not all fantasy needs to be romantasy. Not every book needs to be a romance. And so we're not going to chase the Twilight and the 50 Shades of Grey of the world. We're interested in getting out books that, yes, women, but also men. Right? Sort of the great American novel. In any genre. In fact, one of the books that I think we're going to publish next year as we start putting books out, one of the small number we basically have already greenlit, is arguably not a genre novel at all. Arguably, it's a literary novel. The the tagline of the book, the logline on the back, might be the greatest secret of all is that the CIA is a bunch of nincompoops. So we'll see if that's where it ends up.
Yeah.
But that's basically what the novel is, and it's sort of something like a Catch-22 or a Slaughterhouse-5 or a Confederacy of Dunces, a literary novel about the Central Intelligence Agency. So that's who we are. We're very small. We are part. John is right about this. We are part of a larger group of companies that includes other small publishing ventures. So, and I confirmed that to him when he reached out to me. We have some shared resources that way, but other than sort of shared resources, there's just three of us, and we're kind of running full speed to get novels, get a marketing strategy, get a royalty strategy, get a pricing strategy, get a design look into place, recruit writers. Right, we're doing that 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
It's very fun. It's the funnest job I've had as an adult, frankly.
Nice. Yeah.
Cool.
It's definitely nice that you guys are targeting the dudes, because I don't think there's a lot of properties out there that were targeted at men that women like, but it seems like it's not just publishing. I feel like it's so many other entertainment industries have kind of gone what is it they say in Hollywood? It's like if it's male and pale, it's stale or something like that. So,
yeah, it's interesting. There used to be, I think there still is an idea, 4 quadrants. Hollywood had this idea of the 4 quadrants, which was you were trying if you wanted to a real blockbuster film, the 4 quadrants were, it's like a Punnett square: adult, children, female, male, right? Mom, dad, son, daughter. And so the idea was that you wanted in a blockbuster film to have some significant elements that appealed to each of those groups, so that everybody would love your film, right? So for sure, we're up for 4 quadrant books. We may end up with some books that exclusively are interesting to men. We're probably not going to publish books that principally interest women, right? We just probably won't. Which, because we believe you are well served elsewhere, God bless you. So what else can I tell you about Ark? I was going to comment on John's article. Let me just say just a few things, okay? And I'm not volunteering myself as the corrector of articles, and I'm not going to say very much. First, I'm not saying that John said this, but one might get the impression from the story that Ark is some sort of an anti-Bane, that we're targeted at Bane, we're trying to take out Bane, we're somehow, and that's just not true. It's just not true. Bane publishes novels by Tony Daniel. Bane publishes 12 of my novels, and I have 3 more novels kind of on the way with them. I don't wish ill to Bane. I'm not trying to defeat Bane. Bane, I think we're going to end up being friends. We're going to Superstars next week. David F. Sharrod and I, and Tony Weisskopf of Bane's going to be there. So we're not the anti-Bane. Second, I would say this. Categorically, anybody who thinks there is a quote-unquote civil war inside Bane has no idea how Bane works. That is just not true. Anyone who, and I suspect that John just relied on sources that don't know what they're talking about and are claiming more information than they have. In fact, here's what I suspect, Bruce. I suspect John talked to a former employee of Bane who was fired for incompetence, not doing his job, and making false accusations. And that guy, with his ignorance, general doofusness, and axe to grind, misinformed John. It is, I suspect, what happens. And again, this is not to say that I'm volunteering people be the source, the inside source. Sorry, I'm a lawyer by occupation. I'm just not going to talk about a lot of stuff people would want me to talk about. And let me say this is a third thing, and I'll just say this as a Bane author. One of the things John quotes writers, or says a writer told him, I think is what he says, is that Bane publishing contracts have a kill switch in them that prevents Bane from being published, because if a new company acquires Bane, all the contracts dissolve and the rights revert to the author. Speaking as a writer, I have 12 books with Bane, bunch of short stories, 3 more books forthcoming. I have never seen a Bane contract that had a kill switch in it that stopped an acquisition from happening. I think this is, no. Is it possible that all the contracts except the ones I have seen have such? Sure, maybe, right? I think it's more likely that whoever is giving John his information is, to use some technical legal terminology, full of shit. Doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay. And now, again, that's not to say that every other thing in the story is true. There's a lot of stuff I don't feel in a position to comment about. But anyway, this came out today. I don't object to, there being science fiction fandom journalism at all. I think John's talked to some sources who are just badly wrong.
I mean, with the whole, with how the algorithm works and trying to get clicks and views, maybe people fill in some gaps, or whatever, with maybe something they think will get them more views. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on what he was doing when he's writing his article.
Again, I have no reason to think John did anything. Look, also, I don't know John. I've never met him. I don't have any.
Me neither.
Right, but I have no reason to think he did anything inappropriate. I suspect I mean, maybe he made up all those ideas himself. I suspect it's more likely someone told him them, and they are just not true.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I wrote a whole list of questions out ahead of time, so I wouldn't.
Sorry, I got a sidetrack. This is just it's current it's current news though, right?
Yeah, it's very applicable.
I mean, literally like 12 hours ago or less, this came out, and so I thought, well, I mean, kind of thought you might ask about it. You didn't. Great, not a problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, others will have read the article. I've been receiving texts all day from people going, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Am I?" Doesn't say anything about me that's bad or wrong. Unaccurately quoted the quote I gave him. This is why I suspect he's accurately communicating what other people said to him too. Okay. I just think that they're doofuses. Anyway, back to you. Sorry, you have a long list of questions.
Yeah, no, I did. I didn't read his article, but I watched his video on it. But my plan was just I wasn't really, going to bring up Bane. I was just going to talk about Ark Press. But I'm glad that that's good that you clarified some things. I do appreciate that because if I'm going to listen to somebody, I want to I like to know that if they're telling me the truth or if their sources are good. So I like that you're able to kind of balance that out.
I mean, my suspicion is that that all journalism probably is like this. There's just, if you were inside any company and there was a, you saw a news story that there would be a significant portion that was just wrong, was just misconstrued.
Yeah.
So anyway, Bane, not my enemy, indeed my friend, my ally, my publisher.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any complaints from any of their books I've read, so I'm a Bane fan as well.
They do a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. I was going to ask you genre, but you kind of touched on it. You said you're going to do sci-fi and fantasy and some westerns. You got any western authors lined up?
We have not, and it's not that we. I mean, it's not like we're going to keep looking till we find one, right? Yeah. It's not like we need a western. We don't know what the proportion will be. My guess is it'll be sort of a third fantasy, a third sci-fi, a third other stuff. We've got a kind of a Hardy Boys-like project in the works that's basically being developed virtually in-house. Mm-hmm. We're talking to lots of writers, getting pitches, or staying in touch with writers who we know are outlining or working on novels that we're excited about, right? And we've got, I've got a folder that's got, I'm not looking at it now, but it's 20 plus submissions that have been sent to us, which we haven't even really started digging into. These are just people who are aware of us and have sent us stuff. And I tried to very scrupulously number them in the order in which they came in and capture them. A reply to the author, thank you very much, got it, put it right in the folder, put a number on it. So we will get to those. We're open to submissions. We will get a widget up on our webpage that'll make it sort of automatic. Mm-hmm. If you can't wait, which I totally understand, you should go ahead and email your submission to me. Okay. So my email address is butler@ark.press. Okay. Now that's ARK.
Can I put that in the description of the video?
That's cool. Absolutely. Okay. Now there is a thing. Can you put attachments in the description of the video? Does that work?
I don't. I've never tried. I could try.
So we have a model. This is sort of still experimental, which we've taken from nonfiction publishing, which is we'd like to see a proposal come in with a submission, which is to say, in order to help us process these things quickly, okay, we need to be able to look at manuscripts and quickly tell when something does not fit or is not going to work for us for some reason, okay? So a proposal is sort of a memo. It'll have a writing sample, probably an extract from the novel, but if for some reason you were saying, hey, I have not written this novel, would you be interested in it if I did? Which, by the way, footnote, you can do that.
Yeah.
Understand that unless you are already a pretty big name in probably traditional publishing, but it could be indie publishing. Unless you're already a pretty big name, we're not going to give you a contract in advance until the book exists anyway. So you can send me a proposal when there's no manuscript. Like, all I'm going to likely say is, hey, that sounds cool. execution's going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
So send me a completed manuscript and I'll take a look at it. Right.
Yeah.
So we have a memo on how to write a proposal. The upshot is we want you to sort of do a little query, right? A couple paragraph query letter. We want you also to tell us the story in brief. Don't do a synopsis. Don't go through and write a one line summary of every chapter. That is boring. Tell us the story. Like you were sitting down in the bar and your friend said, look, I've got 10 minutes. Just tell me the story in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You said, cool. It's this. Bam. Right? Like you're a storyteller. You wrote a novel. Now tell a short version of it.
Yeah.
Along with a couple other things like I don't even remember. I think we ask about sort of what you think about what your promotional resources are, right? And I can't remember, but it amounts to kind of maybe 1,500 to 2,500 words proposal plus a writing sample, which, again, if you've written the book, is probably just the first chapter of the book or something.
Yeah.
Send us that. Send it to us along with your manuscript. Fine. I'll give them both the same number. I'll put them in. If you don't do that, what we do is we run your manuscript through, Grok, and we go, okay, before I read this, before I look at the book, I'm going to read the summary. Okay. And that makes you at the mercy of Grok. Okay.
Yeah.
And whether Grok did a good job summarizing your book in a way that makes it sound interesting, like you would have done. Right. Mm-hmm. So unless you want to be at the mercy of Grok, you should read our memo. And by the way, we're working on a new version of the memo. All it's going to really do is be a little gentler in its language and say, don't be too long. We don't need you to write 30 pages.
Yeah.
We had the first guy who used our memo very scrupulously followed it and produced a 30-page document. And that's our fault. I am reading his novel, so maybe we'll publish him. I can give you that. The other place someone can get it is Ark doesn't. So Ark has an X
account.
Fee account. Yeah. I have a Discord server which has an Ark channel in it. So that's sort of unofficially a kind of an Ark adjacent place.
Okay.
And people are welcome to. I mean, you know how it is. Invitations time out.
Yeah.
I can give you an invitation if you want to post it in the description with the date and say this is going to be good for 7 days. Mm-hmm. If you would like, you're welcome to come in there. We have our memo on proposals pinned to the top of the Ark channel, right? So Bruce, if you're not able to put that memo in the description of the video, we can put a link to Discord and you can come find the memo, read it, send us your proposal. Again, a couple dozen people have done that already. Mm-hmm. And we don't even really have a website yet. So,
how long is the memo?
Let's take a look. Hold on.
Because if it's like a page, I could just copy paste it into the description.
Well, I think it's longer than that.
Oh, okay.
Am I in the right folder? I'm in the right folder. Where is the... There we go. Memo on how to write book proposal. What's the word count here? 700 words. So it's like a 3-page memo.
Okay. If it was like if it's on a website, I could do a link to that site, or like Google Docs. Someone in the chat mentioned that if it's on a Google Doc, I can link it to that.
It is not on a Google Doc. But let's do this. Why don't I can do it right now, or I can do it after the call. Let's post a Discord invitation. People can just come into the Discord, and it's the Ark channel, and it's pinned to the top.
Okay.
And then if you want to leave the Discord server, you can leave it and never come back. You don't have to come to my Discord server. It is full of a bunch of writers who are mostly funny and entertaining people. So
Yeah, I'm in a few. I'm I'm in a Land and Sea Discord, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with Blaine Pardoe's Land and Sea series, but that's a good one. I like that.
I haven't read it, but I am aware of who Blaine is. So cool, fun.
But yeah, any other questions here? Open the floodgates, someone said. Okay, let's see here. So you were talking about your mission, target male readers. What I saw that you have Larry Correia signed on, correct?
Correct.
And he's
one of the first names we announced in our inaugural press release. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second gentleman I'm not aware of, Travis J.I. Corcoran.
Travis is a representative of the state of New Hampshire. He's also a writer. He's working on a book for us that is basically a kind of it's sort of modeled on the independence of Texas, but it's on Mars. So Americans on Mars under the thumb of space Chinese oppressors stage a revolt, free themselves, join the United States. I think is basically, in a nutshell, the book Travis is working on for us.
Well, I don't know. That sounds pretty interesting. I'll check that. Is that his like debut novel or?
He's got a couple books out. One is he's got a series called, I think it's Attilus, Attilus. Let me pull up Amazon and see if that's correct.
I saw that he was ascribed as a Kickstarter sensation or something. I believe something like that.
Yeah, he kickstarted his let's see, Atlas Corcoran. Maybe I'm misremembering the series name. Yeah, and I'm not finding it, so I apologize for not remembering the name. But he's got a series. He's also written he kickstarted that. He kickstarted also a book on, I think this was during COVID. You know, everyone was like, oh, I am home now. What am I going to do? And so like Home Depot temporarily boomed while everyone bought like stuff to remodel their houses. And then it was suddenly out of stock of everything. Right.
Yeah.
People also started gardens. So Travis wrote a book that's about like, I think it's about kind of small hold gardening, like, and maybe it's even like sort of sustainable gardening, like how to have a sustainable 1 acre kind of farm,
like legit, like nonfiction, like it's a how-to book.
Oh, legit nonfiction. Yeah. Travis is, yeah. So Travis is a dude who's like his background is in IT, and he is a sort of libertarian, New Hampshire libertarian, member of the representative, smallhold farmer. Yeah. So
nice.
Who's going to write us a book about Texans rebelling on Mars? Yeah.
That sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to pick that up.
He's a cool guy. I only met him earlier this week. I quite enjoyed talking to Travis.
Oh, nice. Is anyone else? Do you have anyone else pinned down besides those two, or you still got a lot of people in the works?
We do have others. I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about them. We've got sort of firmly pinned down a couple. One is a very fun fantasy novel about giants. It's urban fantasy is the wrong word, but it's a modern fantasy about giants. And the other is this novel about the CIA. So I think we're pretty solid on those four. We've got a number of manuscripts, including some that have come from even some pretty big name agents. So I mean, the thing is, we need to not just get a first slate of books, but we need to start the pipeline, right? So this is the beginning of going to from zero to a steady flow of manuscripts.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So even if we said, oh man, and I'm not saying this is the right number, but if we said, oh, we can only acquire 6 manuscripts right now, fine. Our issue is not to acquire how many to acquire right now. Like, I could acquire a book and say, look, this is because of work, or because we don't have, this is going to come out in a year and a half or 2 years potentially. So it's fun. We're still looking. We've got, I guess we're sort of two fantasy, 1 science fiction, 1 literary fiction. That's our ratio right now.
Nice. Yeah, I saw Larry is doing a modern fantasy. So I don't really know. What's the difference between modern fantasy and urban fantasy?
Well, so this is an interesting question. This comes up about his other stuff. So book 1, right? Larry writes of Monster Hunter International. Larry writes about an accountant who kills his werewolf boss in the first chapter. Then he joins a bunch of kind of ex-military, paramilitary contractors who spend most of the novel riding Humvees around rural Alabama. Is that urban fantasy? Like, it's not real urban.
Rural fantasy?
Rural fantasy doesn't sound like a thing, does it?
I don't like saying the word. I can't ever pronounce it right.
Yeah, well, this was what show was that on where they had the rural juror?
I don't know.
Was it Kimmy, the unsinkable Kimmy Schmidt? I think that's what it was. And one of the characters is an actress who was in a film called The Rural Juror, and this was no one could say it. The rural juror. Yeah. So it'll be it's a modern fantasy. Larry's outlining it now. I think we're going to do potentially a graphic novel as well as a series. Pretty excited about that. So this is new from Larry. It'll be not Monster Hunter International, but probably closer to that than anything else that he's done.
Okay, so it's going to be set in Earth, or I don't know if you're allowed to say or not.
I believe. Okay. I have not having seen it. I think the intention is Earth, modern times, something more like a Repairman Jack, or like even a Batman, sort of I think Larry wants to rightly not look too much like Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Right? So I think he's focusing on more of kind of a lone hero this time. Okay.
And you said that's going to be a graphic novel, or is that a separate thing?
Oh, I think there'll be a graphic novel. We're not sure. This is the sort of things we're working on. I think it'll be a graphic novel as well as a series of books.
Awesome. Yeah. I always thought that Monster Hunter would make a sweet. I mean, I know it's not Monster Hunter, but it would make a sweet comic or graphic novel.
It would. Well, I mean, it made 2 different game systems, right? It kickstarted it for Hero Games and then Savage Worlds. So
yeah,
it's got a very punchy graphic novel-y kind of feel to it for sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. Is there like a certain number of? I know you said you're not like trying to track down a Western author, but is there like a certain amount of authors that you're trying to, I guess, fill your stables with?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think we have to kind of feel our way to an equilibrium, right? I mean, the problem is sometimes an author is somebody who shows up twice a year with a manuscript, and that takes a certain amount of your catalog, right? Sometimes an author shows up once every 5 years with a manuscript, but you still want it because it's great or because, right? Like neither of these is the good and the other one is the bad.
Yeah.
But you got to kind of get the writers and figure out how much they're going to write for you, right? And some people we're talking to are like Larry, full-time writers, and others are people who, I mean, Travis has sort of 4, like me, he does 4 or 5 things. And one of them is writing novels. We're also talking to people who are recognizable names, but previously have not been associated with fiction at all. People have written nonfiction books who are who have a big enough following in that or in social media space and who want to take a stab at writing a novel. So the short answer is, sorry, I'm very bad at giving short answers, Bruce.
No, that's fine.
That was all a long answer, and I don't know.
It's just more information and clarification, so I enjoy it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's very kind. The short answer is we don't know. We don't know. We're open now. Now's a great time to apply to us because, like, we are getting the pipeline started. Having said that, I'm not a fool. I know that most of the manuscripts we're going to get in are not going to be a good fit. Indeed, the majority are going to be objectively bad. And if I discover your manuscript is objectively bad, I will not tell you that. But the fact that we need authors will not save you. I will still reject you. I will be kind. I will say, not a good fit for us at this time. But, you know, established existing publishers, sometimes it's very difficult to even get an editor to look at your stuff. That is not the case here. We got 3 editors. I have basically a full-time job reading science fiction fantasy manuscripts right now. So
How's that? You like that?
All the Oxenfree. It's awesome. This is in terms of what I'm doing. This is the funnest job I've had in my adult lifetime.
Yeah.
It's in fact in my lifetime. It's better than also when I worked at McDonald's. It's even better than that.
Top that one, huh?
Yeah. That was so good. I worked at McDonald's twice. This is even better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the answer is enough. We're looking for enough people that we have a steady flow of novels. We'll see how many that is.
Sweet. Well, I'll definitely be keeping my eye out on that. Do you?
one of the.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say one of the predictable downsides is everybody that has a trunk novel now hopes we're going to publish their trunk novel. And this includes big name writers. We had a big name agent send us a big manuscript, like 236,000 words from a big name writer, and told us it was exactly up our alley. And we read it and we're like, no, this is bad. The reason he has not sold this elsewhere is because it is bad.
Is that just like a novel that they wrote it and they just carry it around everywhere until someone will pick it up?
I think the agent is well, a trunk novel usually is the first novel you write, and you know what you're doing. So a trunk novel is an unpublished manuscript. And this is. I mean, I'm not going to say who it is or who the agent is, right? But obviously the agent hoped we would get excited about the big name. We did. Then we read the book and we're like, we're not going to publish this.
Oh no.
And we don't think he's a big enough name and an old enough guy. We don't think he's going to do the rewrite that would be required to make it something we'd publish. So we've already rejected a fairly big. Yeah.
Is that an issue with more established writers? It's hard to get them to, go with your notes.
I mean, it depends on every individual. I've certainly had established writers who have kind of brushed me off as editor. In fact, I had this. I'm not going to say this name either, but one of the novels I edited at Bain, I was like, okay, hey, so-and-so, your manuscript is coming my way. I'm going to get it in a week. We'd never met. I emailed this person. I'm going to get it in a week and probably take me a week, and then I'll get you comments. The author replies and says, very well, you should know that if you and I have different views of the book, it's probably because I have a PhD in literature.
Oh, gosh. Sounds like a...
I was like, if you only knew how little I respect PhDs, you would never say that in my presence.
Yeah.
So yes, there are writers who do that. It's not necessarily a question of being established. It may be, but it's also personality and willingness to do the work. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, personality. And, I mean, you don't want to work with someone that's difficult to work with. Like, you got to have
100%. Yeah. By the way, this is why, if I don't know who you are and you submit your novel to me, okay, very likely you're going to get rejected. If you don't get rejected, the next most likely thing is I'm going to say, listen, we might be interested in this. I want you to make some revisions. And if I'm asking that, one of the things I'm saying is, we don't like your novel quite as it is. I want you to make some revisions. But the other thing I'm saying is, we want to see if you're going to work with us or if you're going to be like, I don't want to make those changes. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be that guy, if like, no matter what I say, you insist that your concept, your whatever you put onto the page is perfect, great. The right place for you is self-publishing on Amazon.
Right.
That is the right place for you because you can put the book out. No one can get in your way. Right. So expect. Yeah. And, we're not trying to like get a free turn and get some free work out of you, as we want to see if we can work with you.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you know how to implement, not just take, but implement the changes. If I give you comment letters and you try, but you just can't do it, we can't publish you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, you guys probably all know this. I don't know why I'm telling you this. This is obvious, right? This is obvious stuff.
I mean, it's kind of like you see how the the sausage gets made. I don't know if a lot of people. I mean, me I'm just a reader. I've never done this before with I've never submitted and done the whole process. So
yeah,
or at least I've never had anything accepted. I guess I've done a couple. I've done a couple short stories, but I know I haven't had much time to do much else. But yeah, so I have no idea what the process is like really. So I find it illuminating.
You can simulate it by getting a big sheet of like plywood and cutting a hole in it and having your friend stand on the other side with a 2x4 and you put your head through the hole, and every time you do, have him hit you in the head with the 2x4. That's an approximation of the experience of submitting. And I know this. I have done it, right? I have my 20th published novel comes out this year. I know what it is to be rejected by agents, to be dumped by my own agent, to be ghosted by my publisher, to have my publisher strand a series by letting the first book go out of print. I like, you have not suffered more rejection than me. I totally have compassion. I get it. And I will try to be cool to you and helpful to you. Right.
Yeah.
And I will look for every reason I can to fight for a manuscript. And this is the part that sucks, Bruce. Okay. Is the sucky part of this job is there are a lot of people who I will want to succeed, and I will want to be able to be the guy who gave them the big break. And I'm going to have to say no.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Right. This is the part that sucks.
Yeah. Yep, the old nature of the business. Here we go. Here's someone. Matthew Bowman said, definitely not obvious to a lot of people out there. I run into way too many myths about publishing being spouted as true by indie authors in various social media groups.
I hear what you were saying. So at the risk of sounding, okay, I'm going to tell you a parable, Bruce. Okay.
Okay.
I'll tell you a parable. Okay. We're going to explore a parable together. If you take 100 quarters, okay, 100 quarters, you flip them all. How many do you expect are going to come up heads?
50, I guess.
Yeah, something like 50, right? Yeah. Okay. Now take the whole 100 and flip them all again. Now, how many do you expect will have come up heads 2 times in a row?
Oh, that at 50? I have no idea on that one.
Well, it's going to be half of the 50. It'll be 25.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you expect.
Just keeps going down. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, so then you take them and you flip a third time. Okay. And you expect that how many are going to have come up heads 3 times in a row?
Half of 25?
Half of 25. 12, 13, something like that.
Yeah.
Flip them again, a 4th time in a row, and you expect your expected value. How many you think of those 100 quarters is going to have come up heads all the way through? Mm-hmm. Is something like 6. Okay. Now, here's the parable. You take those 6 quarters that came up heads 4 times in a row. Mm-hmm. You put them in a table in front of the rest of the quarters. That's a writer's conference. So I know so many writers who got lucky, don't know why they got lucky, don't know that they got lucky, can't actually tell you how they succeeded. And then it's a surprise to them when they fail.
Yeah.
Even people who are in it don't understand the industry. And that's a lot of reasons. That's people who, it's people who are just not paying attention because they want to focus on the art. It's people who tell themselves, I don't worry about the business stuff. Oh, that's over my head. I can't tell you. I've been a corporate trainer for 10 years. Can't tell you how many people I have heard say, oh, the P&L is too hard for me. I can't understand that. That mindset is death, right? You've got to be paying attention to the business. It's also people who just don't realize that their path was not typical. I mean, and this includes also in trad pub. I've known many people who were told, "You're the next big thing. You're the next Sanderson. You're the next George R. R. Martin. We're going to promote you. It's going to be great." Then it didn't happen, and suddenly their career was over.
Yeah.
I was on a panel a few years ago with a very big name. I'm not going to say it, but he's a guy you would know. Probably most of you have some books by him. And we were talking about promotion, and I was on a panel about promotion, and he was asked what he does, and he's like, "Oh, I'm with Random House, an imprint of Random House. I don't have to do anything. They plan it all out, and Random House does a great job. They do lots of promotion." And I said, first of all, Joe, his name's not Joe. I said, "What are you doing on this panel?" Like, if your answer, and he kind of shrugged and was like, "Yeah, good point." And I said, secondly, I had a series of Random House too. You know what they did for promotion? They told me, don't do it. I sent them a marketing plan. They said, don't do anything, do nothing, hold off. We're going to have the marketing conversation. Mm-hmm. It came back again, do nothing, wait, hold off. We're going to have the marketing conversation. It came back again, wait. Finally, just before the book came out, they called me, the marketing VP and my editor, who is a big name editor. I said, this is the marketing conversation. I said, great. What are we going to do? Random House. And they said, library outreach. I said, okay. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And they said, we don't actually know. I said, well, what do you mean you don't know? Is it like an email to librarians? Do you send copies around? We'll get back to you. They never got back to me. I said, what else are you going to do? And they said, that's it. Library outreach. We think you would do a great job of reaching out to bloggers to talk about your book. So anyway, this is like a roundabout way of saying what? Take things that writers say with a grain of salt. I know that I'm a writer and I'm saying that. So this is the recursive. This is right. This is all Cretans are liars. I'm a Cretan telling you that Cretans are all liars. Take what writers say with a grain of salt. Often they don't have enough perspective to understand whether their situation was a fluke or normal, if they're lucky, if they're unlucky, what caused their career. Now, that's not true of all of them, but the problem is if you're just sitting in the audience and six of them are talking on a stage, and you don't know them, it can be very hard to tell who knows what you're talking about and who's just full of beans.
Yeah. I think, I like a lot of writers that aren't just writers, that they either did something before they were writers or they are writing on the side. So like yourself, or like Larry Correa, who's an accountant, Steve Diamond, who is an accountant. And like, that's why I like the Writers Dojo podcast so much. Cause for me, it helped like demystify a lot of the business, and they talk about like when you should incorporate and like how the taxes should be working and stuff like that. So I love that they do that on their podcast, and they have like people like you and like editors and other writers come on. I think that's a great resource for people that are trying to, like new writers or even older writers or editors, whoever, to check out.
Yeah. I love writer biographies. You're right. Often there was some other career, or there's like, sometimes you'll see the guy that has like, he doesn't really have a resume because like he's never had a career. He's just hold jobs. He's trying hard to make it as a writer for 20 years. So he's been like a short order cook, and he, worked part-time as a firefighter, and he dug graves, and right. Yeah. Writer biographies are they're like a genre unto themselves.
Hammertron Action Figures asked, what is the range for number of words in a manuscript that Ark Press would like?
Hammertron Action Figures. That's awesome. Is that actually a brand? Is this like a manufacturer of action figures?
I don't know. He's one of my followers. Actually, comments quite a bit. I don't know. I think he just.
And you don't know? You haven't looked up Hammertron Action Figures?
I just figured it was a funny username.
I would have done that immediately, or it's like a reference to some TV show.
Yeah.
So, okay, Hammertron. Good question. We get asked this a lot. This is the kind of thing, the information that's in the Discord, by the way, if you're interested. But I will tell you nevertheless. So we don't hate short novels. The golden age of science fiction and fantasy had a lot of short novels. You go back and look at the first Elric books, they're short.
Starship Troopers,
a lot of those books are short. There's nothing wrong with a short novel. So having said that, don't send us your novellas. There's not a market for novellas unless you've already got a very big following.
Mm-hmm.
But we're probably not going to publish short stories either. You're going, Dave, that's only one parameter. What about length? Could it be long? Well, it could be long. You don't get points for being long. We're not going to give you a big advance because you're long.
Mm-hmm.
But your length should suit the book. And sometimes, and maybe particularly in some genres, the appropriate length for a book is long, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you send me a 50,000 word epic fantasy novel, I'm going to be probably a little confused.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll be astonished and delighted at what you've done with the genre. But we don't have a fixed rule. Short is not out of bounds.
Okay. You guys look more for do you care if it's a standalone or you're looking more for series to publish?
So this is a good question. I will tell you the thing that is tactically the wisest, regardless of what publisher you are writing to. Is that right? Maybe not certain indies. Let's come back to those in a minute. So your highest percentage shot is to say this book is a standalone book that comes to a satisfying conclusion, and it could be expanded with sequels if there is demand. Why is that the best shot for you? Well, is this a Hammertron question, or is this just you, Bruce?
This one is a follow-up to him. His question made me think of this question.
Oh, I see. I'll address it to Hammertron anyway. What a great name. Well, Hammertron action figures. We're going to find out that's actually in his birth certificate. His parents were like really big toy collectors.
I guess Matthew Bowman, he looked it up. I guess Hammertron's YouTube channel says, I go by the name Hammertron. I review action figures and related vehicles and playsets. So it's his YouTube channel name.
I love it. Here's the deal, Hammertron. When you approach an editor, you're not asking for a job. You're asking for me to invest in a joint venture with you. And what am I investing? Money and time. So what's the highest percentage? How do you increase your percentage chance that I'm going to want to do that? Well, there's basically two things. You can make the return look really big, and you can make the investment look really small. Mm-hmm. You want a big ratio between how much investment and how much return. So how do I make my return look big? You say, at Hammertron Action Figures, I review action figures. We have 7 million subscribers. Our channel regularly has a million views of every episode. Mm-hmm. And then I go, aha! Some of those million people are going to buy books from Hammertron, right? And you start to look interesting, right? By the way, your book being awesome helps me feel like there's going to be a good review, a good return. Okay, that is absolutely a factor. This is not all just like cynical cigar smoking guys in the back room talking about money.
Yeah.
If your real name, if the reason you call yourself Hammertron Action Figures is because who you really are is Shaquille O'Neal or Michael Bublé, and you just don't want everyone to know how nerdy you are, you could say, "Listen, I'm actually Michael Bublé, and I'll release an album that goes with the book." Right? Great. The return looks huge, right? Now, you want to make the investment look small. So you say it's just one book. Mm-hmm. And if it blows up, great, there's more. But if you say to me, okay, this is, you're going to love this. It's going to rock your world. It's book 1 of my 27 book Zodiac series. I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read it because I know I cannot acquire a book 1 of 20, no matter how good it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write you a 27 book contract. Okay. So the strategically safe thing for almost every publisher, the smartest bet is for you to say it's a standalone with the room, the potential for sequels. Now, having said that, two things. One, there are publishers who operate so-called rapid release model. These are not going to be mostly your Simon & Schuster's. Okay. These are indie publishers. They are sort of print on demand on Amazon, focus on ebooks. Okay. And what the rapid release model usually means is we don't want to release a series unless it has 3 books. Now, I've not worked at one of those publishers because we release them all basically back to back to back.
Yeah.
Right. Like release a month later, release a month later, release. And so I don't know if you were at Shadow Alley Press or Mountain Dale or Wargate or something. I think all those guys do, maybe not exclusively, but I think they all do rapid release stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they want you to approach them with 3 whole novels, or if the pitch should look something like, I've written 1, I could write 2 more quickly.
Yeah. So
you could rapid release them. Maybe and this is a matter of knowing your publisher, right? Being a reader of that publisher may help seeing what they publish and how they put it out. The other caveat I'll say is this, okay? And I will tell you a story from my own biography. Your highest percentage shot, okay, Mr. Action Figures, is to say this is a standalone novel. But when I pitched to Baen, I broke all the rules. I didn't break them on purpose. I broke them because I didn't really understand what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. In this sense, I didn't understand that I was making it harder for editors to say yes to me. But I did not say this is a standalone novel. First of all, I sent it to an editor who loves science fiction, and it's a fantasy novel. And secondly, her stated preference for length is 90 to 130,000 words, and my book was 240,000 words. And thirdly, I did not say it is a standalone novel. I said this is obviously book 1 of a series. Here's how book 2 and 3 will go. And hijinks ensued. Okay, and I will tell you again, I have in my career, the one thing I believe in is the guy who can take a punishment and keep going, because I have endured many things and hope to be able to endure all things. So I got that manuscript into her, and she didn't read it for 4 years.
No.
And then when I got my second agent, because my first agent dumped me, and we went out, and my second agent is a kids agent and has no contacts in sci-fi fantasy. So I went to Worldcon to meet editors to say my agent will submit to you, and then she did, and she followed up with Tony Weisskopf of Baen, and then Tony read the book. And she bought the series, right? So, and the point is not look at me. The point is not that if you can break the rules and you can succeed. Well, that is the point. The point is not that break the rules, you will succeed because you break. The point is sometimes it works out anyway.
Yeah.
Right. You have to but you should know what you're doing, and you should know that you're just making it harder for me to accept if that what you have you feel strongly as a series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sure it probably helps too if you're established. You could probably pitch a series.
100%. Unless you're Jonathan Mayberry. If you Hammertron Action Figures if you are any of Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Bublé, or Jonathan Mayberry, tell me. We will acquire a book series from you. Not a problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else you got? Are you guys when you guys get up and running and you get your books out? Are you planning on putting them on Kindle Unlimited?
This is a good question. We have asked this question. We haven't had an answer yet. What it limits us from doing is so Kindle Unlimited is attractive because it means people who pay for Prime can watch without additional payment. And so there are some set people who don't buy other books. They just buy Prime and then read all the free books they can get. Mm-hmm. Right. So maybe that's the attractive thing, but you have to be exclusive to Kindle Unlimited. And I think that means you can't sell copies on your own site either. And some of the trade-off there is if we sell copies on our own site, then we don't have to give 30% to Amazon, and we can pay the author more. So we're looking at the trade-offs. That is a great question. Don't know what the answer is. Definitely people who I've had some people who are close to me who have said, oh, it has to be the one or the other. Yeah. I've heard strong views both ways.
So you can't, I mean, you can print the books, right? If you, because I've seen like Land and Sea with Wargate, like they're on KU, but you can also buy I don't know where the physical books come from. If it's through an Amazon, maybe that's why it's okay.
I don't know if Wargate is printing on. Well, I think you have to be Man, I could be wrong. I think to be in Kindle Unlimited, your ebook has to be exclusive. I think your physical book can still be available.
I see what you're
I
saying.
could be wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
If your physical book can't be available elsewhere, then the answer is we're not doing that, because actually we're going to lean hard into direct sales. I think we'll see how this goes, right? And the reason we're going to do that is exactly the reason I just said. In the traditional publishing model, there are entities that take a big chunk of the sale, and if you have a direct sale, you can live without them. You can live without a bookstore. You can live without a distributor. Between those two, they take 60% of any sale of a book you buy in Barnes and Noble or Books A Million or whatever.
Yeah.
By the way, you say, well, Amazon. Well, yes, you can sell it on Amazon, and you don't pay 60% to those guys, but you pay a big chunk to Amazon instead, right? It's a smaller chunk than the 60. It's still a big chunk. So if we can get to here's what I would love to end up in, and we're still, none of this is set in stone. We're wheeling and dealing. We're figuring it out. I would love to end up in a world where we sell so many books and the authors are so good, because you guys are great. Hammertron, you were great. I look forward to seeing your manuscript. That bookstores have they carry our books. Right? I'd like to see that. For some people, this may be less true. Bruce, you look very young. You're probably like less than 1 million, whereas I am obviously more than 1 million.
Yeah.
And for people like me who are more than 1 million years old, and writers like me, the truth is, some of us don't feel like we really want to be in the bookstore. Like that's the prize.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I saw books in book. Like I want to get in the bookstore. Now, economically, that's the wrong thing to want. You're paying like 60% of the money goes to the bookstore.
Yeah.
So what I would like in an ideal world, the outcome is bookstores carry our books. They sell enough to keep them happy, and every other purchase is direct. So we have the most money to pay authors, throw good parties, etc. We'll see how that all works out. We're working on it.
Yeah. I've also heard some kind of with books, especially like Barnes and Noble, some shenanigans maybe with some politically motivated employees might I've just heard things like people hiding books or whatever. If they know that an author.
My experience with Barnes and Noble's employees, and I prior to 2020, for the 7 years previous to that, I made my living as a corporate trainer, and so I traveled all around. And so as I was becoming traditionally published, I was also going into Barnes and Nobles. And before COVID, I had been into almost 50% of the existing Barnes and Noble stores. I repeatedly would tweet and tag the Barnes and Noble corporate account and say, okay, 38.2% of Barnes and Nobles visited. Come on, isn't it time you guys admit I hold the record? Hey, 38.6%. Hey, 40.1% by my calculations based on the number of stores you say are open in your most recent annual report. Am I not the record holder yet? They never answered me. But my experience was almost universally good, sometimes great. One or two kind of weird experiences. I went to a store in New Jersey. Kind of due west of the George Washington Bridge. I want to say it was like the Palisades, New Jersey store. That's probably not right. And I had a book, a copy of my novel Witchy Eye. Right, this is what I would do. I'd go in with a free book, and I walk to the manager and say, "Hey, listen, I'm a writer." I say, "You've actually got 2 of my books. I'd like to sign them." And I brought a copy of book to give to one of your staff. Who here reads fantasy novels? He's like, nobody. Nobody? Like, you have this whole Barnes and Noble store, and like not one employee reads, I don't know, Harry Potter or The Lord of the Rings. He's like, yeah, we all read thrillers. I was like, I think this guy's deliberately trying to make me go away, So I also at a Barnes and Noble. Where was this? It was Nashua, New Hampshire. I was going from a client in Marlborough, Massachusetts, and then driving kind of 3 hours or whatever up to northern Vermont. And on the way, I went to the Barnes and Noble in Nashua, New Hampshire. I've been there 2 or 3 times. Man, they had this new employee, and she followed me around the whole time going, Have you considered Greta Thunberg's book? This is a
Oh.
really good. People want to buy Greta Thunberg's book. This is a book about the things we got to do to save the environment. And I was like literally the whole time. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. I was like, you understand that I'm here to help you sell my book. Right? Like I think she was just new and really trying to impress the manager she was hustling. But like, man, that got old the first time she asked. You know?
Well, definitely the way they arranged the books at the front. I'm like, okay, I can tell what's going on here. I'm not surprised she was slinging the Greta books.
Well, that's probably, there's an element of that, but that's paid for, right? So this is the other thing, is how do you sell a lot of books in a bookstore? It's not just that you have to print copies and put them there, and you the publisher take all the financial risk on the copies you print. If they don't sell, you have to buy them back.
Yeah.
Or worse, you have to refund the money when the store deliberately destroys them because they can't sell them. Okay, that's how stupid this business model is. But if you want, an indie store is different, okay? An indie store, you may have like actual, genuine, oh my gosh, this is staff pick. Staff loves this book, right? I've seen those. Those are genuine. I've been that pick once or twice, right? The Barnes and Noble, that stuff is sold. You know, if you see a big stack of Rebecca Roan horse at the end of the shelf, you know, this is not like they're like, everyone here loves Rebecca Roan horse. No, it's that whoever publishes Rebecca Roan horse paid money for an end cap display.
Yeah.
Right. So, but what you can tell from the sort of political tenor of the books that get those end cap displays is kind of what publishing and the bookstore are trying to get you to buy, what they think you want to buy or what they think you should buy.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed.
We're not going to play that game.
No. I don't know if you've been doing. I'd recently remodeled Barnes and Noble, but so the one by my house, they remodeled it a few years ago, and the fantasy section is pathetic now. It's so small.
Well, they split fantasy and sci-fi off. So again, prior to 2020, I was in Barnes and Noble all the time. Since 2020, very little.
Yeah.
Right, because the way I make a living changed because of the lockdowns. So, they split them into science fiction and fantasy, which I think is a bad idea. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. I personally have a series of books that's written to look like fantasy, kind of on the surface, looks like Sword and Sandal or Sword and Sorcery, but actually there's no magic. What you have is exotic biology or advanced tech. Right. And so it's really hit and miss whether they get it in the right section.
Yeah.
You know, or I should say it depending on the store, it's in one section or the other kind of promiscuously. Right.
Yeah.
So I just wish they put it all in. And there are people like me who write both genres and like, just put it in one section. I don't know what they're doing. But yes, also where are you? Because they had these, I don't know if they're still doing them. They had these pilot stores in about 2018, 2019. I remember one of them was like, man, where did I see them? There was one in Eden Prairie, Minneapolis, but I saw another one in California somewhere where all of the inventory was controlled from New York. So they couldn't choose. And so they only had bestsellers. And so like the fantasy section was small.
Yeah. And
like I went in and the only Bane writer they had was Larry Correia. He's the only one who sold enough recently to be there, right? So if you want a Jim Butcher, you could get it. It's like a big airport bookstore. We only have the books they're going to sell lots of copies of. It makes a kind of financial sense.
Yeah.
The problem is that it is death to literature, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what's happened with your Barnes and Noble or maybe everyone reads thrillers in your town. I don't know.
Yeah, I live just outside Portland, Oregon. I live in Hillsboro, Oregon, so I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know what to read here.
Well, so Portland has one of the great indie bookstores. Powell's is fantastic.
Yeah, I like Powell's.
It's got. I've had a number of signings. I mean, I've been to the downtown one and signed the column and stuff, but I've had several signings in. It's another one. It's kind of like east and south or west and south of the city. It's like Beaver Crossing or something.
Cedar Hills Crossing.
Cedar Hills Crossing.
Yeah.
Not Beaver, but Beaver Cedar. I was kind of close.
Beaverton is the city it's in.
Oh, look at that. Perfect. Okay. I'm not an idiot. So, which is fabulous. I'll say this for that Powell's. I have done a lot of book signings, and one of the many dirty little secrets in publishing is that bookstores almost universally have no ability to get anybody to show up for a signing. They rely on the author.
Yeah.
And they'll even kind of hint that. They'll be like, well, how will you promote? What will you do to promote your signing? Oh, you could post on social media, right? The only exception is the Cedar Hills Crossing Powell's in Beaverton, Oregon. When I have gone, has always people have shown up who are like fans of the bookstore, which is like, that's amazing. It's almost unheard of.
It's kind of a trendy thing around here. I mean, people are, it's a hipster community. There's a lot of that kind of, I don't know. So people like Powell's is like anything that's like made in Oregon, like it's a big thing to people here. So like, it's like, it's Powell's, it's ours. So people get super stoked about it.
It is very cool. If you guys only were not a bunch of hippies and then let me pump my own gas, I might want to move there. But
they just changed it. You can do it now, and nobody knows what to do with themselves.
Dude, for years, I kid you not, I have had a favorite gas station in the state of Oregon, and it is the Arrowhead Plaza. It's on the Walla Walla Indian Reservation. I want to say it's I-84 coming up from Idaho. And the reason I like it is because you can pump your own gas. So I always make sure to, like, whichever way I'm going through Oregon, tank up at the Arrowhead Plaza.
I know I got so used to it. I was in the Navy. I was stationed in San Diego, so I got super used to pumping my own gas. And I came home, and I was like, this sucks. I got to sit here and wait. Nobody's
like
coming.
There, some guy with his many jailhouse tattoos comes out.
Yeah. I actually had a bunch of my buddies in high school work at the Chevron next to the high school.
That, I think, is the intended logic, is that it creates jobs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Jobs by making gas expensive. Mm-hmm. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Matthew Bowman, are you a Navy guy too, huh? Let's go.
Yes.
All right, okay, you answered that. Is Ark Press, like, as an entity, going to be coming to any cons in the future?
Oh, yeah. Next week, I'm going to Superstars of Writing in Colorado Springs. So is David F. Sharirad with me. The week after, all three of us are going to be at LTUE in Utah. Well, I am going to Billings FunCon in Montana in June. Unfortunately, I got invited to two cons the same weekend after I'd already committed to Billings. Son of SilverCon in the Vegas area invited me. And that's a fun little con. I mean, this would be its third year. And I went for the first. Couldn't make it last year. So I hope they invite us again next year, and I'll try to make it. Going to the Writers Cantina in kind of Salt Lake area in either June or July. Going to LibertyCon in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Again, either June or July. I think that one's June. Planning on being at DragonCon. I think at all of those it will just be me, except that probably at DragonCon all three of us will be there. David F. Sharirad, I think for years has been a regular attendee at ArmadilloCon in
That's a sweet
Dallas.
name.
Yeah, it is pretty. I say Dallas. Actually, I think maybe it's not Dallas. Somewhere in Texas, though. ArmadilloCon. I bet he will be there again. And stay tuned. I mean, we've only existed for 3.5 weeks as people find out about us, and we get more invitations. I think resources permitting, especially if the con can help by I mean, we have funding, but it's finite. Yeah. So if the con can help by contributing travel expenses, that'll ease increase the likelihood we can make it. So the answer is yes. Look for us to come to as many cons as we can. Philosophically, we think this is one of the important jobs of editors, which is to say, sometimes when you're trying to break in, right, and you're like, okay, you're as good as some of the published writers, and the truth is you are, because some of them are bad. Okay, some of them suck. You are as good as some of those guys. The hard truth is that doesn't really matter. You got to find your way in.
Yeah,
being good Steve Martin's advice is people in the arts is be so good they can't ignore you. That's true, but like the cynical corollary is actually they can still ignore you. There's no good so good that you can't be ignored.
Yeah.
But he's right. Be as good as you can. But it can seem like, there's this hedge of poisoned thorns, and you can see the glistening venom dripping off, and there's like weird things in the bottom of the hedge, and it's terrifying. And like the publishing house is somewhere over on the other side, and they don't want to talk to you. Here's another experience. So I went to the WorldCon 2012, maybe. It was Renovation. It was held in Reno, exciting Reno, Nevada.
Yeah.
And
great police force there.
That's what I see on the TV. So I planned, and I was strategic. I'm going to go. I'm going to meet editors. I looked at the schedule. Here are all the editors I'm going to meet. Here's where I'm going to meet them. I'm going to go to this class, this lecture, or this panel. I'm going to listen to Moshe and think of some cool thing to say to him in the hall afterwards. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to right. And I saw two editors were going on the so-called Strolling with the Stars, which is a WorldCon institution. And in the morning they schedule kind of walks. It's usually like a walk around the hotel. These are not like 5-mile walks. They're like half-mile walks. Okay. If you've been to WorldCon, you'll know why they're all half-mile walks. And so I saw two editors, right? And one was Toni Weisskampf-Bain, and the other was, let us call her Rose. Rose is not her name. Rose was an editor at a major sci-fi fantasy publisher. And so I got up the Thursday morning, and I was down there, boom, and I'm like, I'm ready to walk, and I'm wearing my black blazer and my jeans and hanging out, and I see the editors. And I walk up to introduce myself, and I say, hey, I'm Dave, and oh, hey, I'm Rose, hey, I'm Toni. Talk a little bit. What do you do, Dave? And I said, oh, I'm a writer. And Toni says, oh yeah, well, you're kind of dressed like one. And she said, well, what are you out pitching? And I said, well, a series I'm pitching now is called The Witchy War. Book 1 is Witchy Eye. It's complete. It's 240,000 words long. It's kind of Game of Thrones meets Last of the Mohicans.
That's a good description.
Yeah, I was trying to say like, hey, like. It's like muskets and tomahawks. So it kind of feels like Last of the Mohicans, and it isn't in America, early 1800s. Last of the Mohicans is a little earlier than that, but close. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it has kind of some savage power politics going on in it. So Toni said, interesting. By the way, 4.5 years later, she bought that series. Rose said harumph and turned her back on me. And this is kind of like the impression that it's easy to get from the major publishers, right? Is that they actually don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
They actually, you're like, don't you have to be open? Harumph. I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Philosophically, I don't hate people like that, for one thing, but I also I'm not deeply autistic for another, which I think might have been part of Rose's issue. Is actually so autistic she did not have any real grasp on human emotion and did not understand she was actually insulting me to my face.
Yeah, it's super rude.
So yeah, now one of the functions of an editor is to be available, is to be out among the people, so that you can say, hey, how do I do this, man? Right? I got a manuscript, a half manuscript, here's what I think about it. Here, can I talk to you about it? And we go, let's go down the bar. Mm-hmm. We sit in the bar, and you're like, let me buy you a drink. And I'm like, man, I don't drink, but you go ahead and have a drink and let's talk. And you say, let me tell you my story. And I listen. I'm like, well, here's what might be a problem. Have you tried this? Right. And well, how do I get published? Let's talk about it. Like I don't want to be a guy on the other side of a big poison hedge of thorns.
Yeah.
Right. I want to be a guy that You know, I want to be a guy that when I die, there are some writers who are like, that guy helped me. That guy made the difference. That guy helped me figure out the thing. That guy opened up the door for me. Or even if he couldn't, he never acquired my book, but like, man, we had great conversations. He was long-winded and kind of boring, but he was, you know, he was a decent guy, right? So that's sort of part of the job of the editor. And so I this is long. Everything I say is long. I know, Bruce. Sorry, but
that's great. I like it.
all right. Well, good. The point is, well, okay. Here's two things about me. Okay, every 3 months, I have a public lecture in my house. I don't give it. Somebody else comes in and gives it. This is free. It's available to the whole wide world. I literally post invitations to my Twitter account. I literally put up an invitation. We had one 2 weeks ago. A documentary filmmaker named Rick Hatch has made a documentary film about a guy named Jester Hairston. Who's Jester Hairston? He, for like 40 years, he was the guy who, if you were a Hollywood filmmaker and you wanted a spiritual sung or performed in your movie, Jester Hairston did it. He wrote those, he arranged them, he led choirs, he performed them. Sidney Poitier won an Oscar. I forget the name of the film, but in the film he sings, I think he sings Go Down Moses. It isn't Sidney Poitier. Apparently Sidney Poitier could not sing. It's Jester Hairston, right? So we had this guy come and give an hour-long lecture about the life and career of Jester Hairston. And then I always make brownies and people hang out and talk, right? Why am I telling you this? My point is I make myself available.
Yeah.
And a lot of those who come as writers. By the way, another thing I do, which may be irrelevant if you don't happen to live near where I am, so I apologize. This Saturday, here's another thing I do on a quarterly basis. I convene IHOPCon. Okay.
Nice.
What is IHOPCon? IHOPCon is I say, hey, I'm going to IHOP on this Saturday. I'm doing it. Okay. Day after tomorrow, it's IHOPCon. We go to the same IHOP. It's in American Fork, Utah, because that's kind of centrally, it's nearish where I live and also close to Salt Lake. So the Salt Lake writers can get down there. And writers show up. Everybody buys your own lunch. You buy your own lunch. You don't pay a ticket. There's no schedule. Nobody's in charge. It's hierarchically flat. It's anarcho-libertarian. Now, I'm not in charge of IHOPCon. I started it. I'm the guy who says, let's do one. But if I forget, someone says, Dave, should we do one? And I go, yes, let us do it. And then we just go to IHOP, and it's a bunch of writers. And we've had as many as 50. These days, attendance is kind of down. It's more like 20. I think it's because I got off of Facebook. I had like 5,000 Facebook friends, but when I discovered that Facebook was pro-human trafficking, I was like, I have to get off this website. Yeah. And I cut off my own legs in social media, right? I'm not back up that level still 4 years later on Twitter. So, but I feel better about myself. Yeah. But the point is, I'm not hiding in a castle. I am findable. You can find ways to eat. If you can't come physically to IHOPCon, get it. You can't come to my house to have brownies and hear. I think the next lecture is going to be a massage therapist who's going to teach techniques to like. I'm not actually sure what the right, like, I think it's posture improvement and kind of unkinking your body kind of techniques.
Yeah.
She thinks I'll be taller afterwards, which I find I'm skeptical. But I'm in for it. The job of the editor should be to be findable.
Yeah.
The job should not be that there's a swarm of agents around you keeping writers away, right? The job should be that writers should be able to find you. It may not be easy. A lot of people want to talk to me. They ought to be a way that a writer can reasonably sit down in a room with Dave and be like, can I talk to you about my book, about my career, about pitching? And I say, yes, let us talk about it. Even if I only have 15 minutes. I'm in an airport and you recognize me because I'm like 20 feet tall and, I'm like bald with a mullet, right? And you're like, I do not recognize that guy. You should be able to sit down and talk to me. So that is a lot of talking. My point is we aim to be available.
Yeah, I think that probably, in my opinion, I think that's probably what would separate a great, or like someone who's passionate about editing versus someone who's maybe just like Rose, maybe just doing it as a job, or I don't even know what, but they don't sound passionate about it.
I can make better money other ways,
Yeah.
and have. This is not about the money. I have my own writing career. I know what it is to be a writer. I want to help writers. By the way, that's true of David and Tony also. An editorial shop, a publisher is a black box. I know. It's a black box behind a poisoned hedge. But if you got the Ark black box and you opened it, what you would see inside is 3 writers. That's it. It's 3 writers trying to figure out how to put together a publishing company to help writers, to not screw writers, to find again those readers that have been abandoned, and generally make the world a better place.
Yeah. Well, I think that's super commendable and very awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I don't remember. I think I saw it on X. I keep wanting to say Twitter. I know everyone.
I know.
I don't know why you changed it.
I don't know.
I know you guys are very, other than also like targeting males, but also that sounded probably weird, but you know what I mean.
It's all right. We're among men here. We can say things.
Yeah. It's going to be like humanity wins, like kind of staying away from grimdark. Does that mean
that's my personal preference?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a motto: the humans win in the end. Literally one of the novels we're working with. We called the writer and said, "Hey, there's a lot to love in this novel. Our motto is the humans win in the end." And he's like, "Oh, okay. What if what if he saves the girl instead of she gets killed?" And I was like, that would actually make a big difference.
Yeah.
Personally, I will tell you that I cannot stand grimdark. So I remember a couple years ago, I was at Superstars, and this very excited young writer named Storm wanted to pitch me. He's like, my grimdark novel. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. He's like, what? I said, I don't like grimdark. He said, you would pass on George R.R. Martin. I said, yes, I would. Correct. I would have passed on George R.R. Martin. I feel fine with that. I don't want to publish grimdark. Grimdark is philosophically sophomoric. It's we are just animals. There is no meaning. It's tough posturing, trying to sound like you're bravely facing the abyss. And hey, baby, you want to sleep with me? It's terrible.
Yeah.
I hope grimdark is coming to an end. It has a philosophy that is commendable, but it's a stupid philosophy. It's a childish and anti-human philosophy. Now, so if you have a grimdark novel, send it to Tony Daniel. That's what I'm telling you. Right. He may also reject you, but I for sure will reject you.
Yeah.
I should say this also. We are not woke. That doesn't mean that we're like going around crusading against woke, but like, don't send me your woke novel either. Right? Yeah. If your novel is like, the point of your novel is to lecture me about genders or something, like I'm the minute I think that's true, I'm out. That's not what I'm interested in publishing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I cut you off. You were actually going to ask a question, and I ran you over.
No, it was kind of in conjunction with that. But so no grimdark, but what about like, so say like Saga of the Forgotten Warrior, where it's like dark fantasy. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know what the ending is. But like if it has like a good ending, but it just has like a dark setting, is that something you guys would do? Or
so, let me build upon my no grimdark preferences. Okay. I also don't want any slice of life books. If you have a story and you're like, oh, this just follows Sally around and she rides her pet Charmander, I guess you must copyright her pet unicorn, and they go shopping and they bake a cake and have some friends over. Like, I don't want that either.
Yeah.
Right. A story is conflict. A story takes the hero and vicariously the reader and puts them through the ringer. It makes you care about the character and then makes you worry that the character is going to get eviscerated or ionized or or hurled out into the upper atmosphere of Mars to fall to a fiery death, and want that not to happen, but fear that it might. And then in the end, however the novel ends, and for us to publish it in some sense, there has to be some kind of optimism. It doesn't mean that it has to be a happy ending, but it cannot just be totally bleak. Okay. You've vicariously, the reader vicariously experienced these adventures, and your organism is strengthened. You're emotionally toughened, or you've experienced catharsis. You've worked out some of your fears about whatever, maybe even things you didn't know, maybe your fear of being hurled into the upper atmosphere of Mars and burning to death, right?
It's a fear you don't think about often, but it's there.
It's there. So this is all to say, a novel that has nothing dark or scary in it is probably not a good fit either.
Yeah.
Right. The point is not dark or scary things. The point is I don't want nihilistic things. I don't want anti-human things. I don't want stories where here's the good guy. He's killed. This guy's kind of a good guy. He's killed too. Ha ha ha. Yeah. The guys who are going to win, it's just luck, and they're bad guys. Ha ha. That's not for me.
Yeah.
Okay. There are publishers who get all excited about that stuff. I will stop reading as soon as I think that's what the book is.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to read that. Like I was a big fan of the Witcher books, and I've kind of just, I don't know, kind of got over it. Granted, I haven't read the last book, so I don't know how the whole series ends. But that's the only book I just can't find the cover art in the rest of the books I own, so I haven't bought it yet. But
it's one of the two great abominations of the last 20 years of fantasy literature. It's a great philosophical abomination. I hope it's passing.
Yeah, I know, it's so funny. I literally, like, I think this past year, I'm just like, I'm sick of this. I don't really, as much as I like the aesthetic and like the video game's fun to play. That's how I didn't even know it was a book series. I played the game and I was like, oh, there's books. I'm gonna start reading the books. But yeah, as I start reading more and more books, I kind of am like not really liking The Witcher.
Yeah. Well, I have not read that one. I have no comment, and I'm not really here to call out any particular book. So
yeah.
But yes, don't send me your grimdark. Probably don't send it to us at all. But if you do, try Tony Daniel or David Afshari. Make those guys read it.
Yeah. Sounds good. No Yokohama shopping, cute story, but not Ark. I don't know.
Yeah. It was all slice of life, and then the typhoon hit, and then he's dead.
See, Robert Kelly Brumbelow.
Robert Kelly Brumbelow, my friend.
Oh, you know him?
Oh, of course I do. He's the rapper, R. Kelly.
Oh,
no, he's not. But
he said
it could be.
He said at least Dave doesn't require the heroine be a redhead, and we won't get started on Brad T. I'm not sure. Is that Brad? I don't know. He's mentioning there, but I don't get the reference.
Brad T's a writer with a distinctive preference for women of a certain physical type, which you can discern by following him in social media.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is that Torgensen?
It is Brad Torgerson. Yeah.
I have to check out his.
He is not Navy. He's Army. He's a warrant officer. I forget what rank exactly. He's basically a human resources guy for. Wait, is it Army or Air Force? Man, shoot! Now I forget. Anyway, he's not Navy though. That's all that matters, right, Bruce?
Yeah. That's honestly that was the last question I had for you. Was the Grimdark one? And
awesome.
Yeah, I super appreciate you coming on here. That was we did hour and 40, almost 45 minutes. So. That was fun, man. Hopefully we can do it again. Next time if you want to come back on again, I'd probably talk more about your books personally because, like I said, I read Witchy Eye and loved it. And I haven't read them yet, but I bought the rest of your books, or at least that series of the Witchy War series. It's just 4 books, right?
Yeah, there'll be 2 more coming.
Okay.
I'm thrilled to come back and talk anytime more about Ark, about any of my novels for sure. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Bruce.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. You have a great night.